one thing that I have greatly admired about you, having, from a distance, just observed your strength and your courage and your grace in incredibly difficult circumstances, is how you have channeled your grief, because obviously there's still so much grief and sadness, and I can imagine your whole life you'll always feel such a deep sense of loss for this child gone too soon, but how you have channeled that grief and that sadness into something so incredibly powerful with the Robert Connor Dawes Foundation. And not everybody, when they find themselves in really difficult circumstances or, having endured such a tragedy and such a loss, does that. And I think of that quote, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," and I don't agree with it, because what doesn't kill us, whether it's a loss or tragedy or hardship in some way, can actually leave sometimes people very bitter, very sad, very despairing, very angry, very, very withdrawn. And it really is about how we consciously choose to respond, and what we choose to do with that. And so I just want you to share with me, what took you on the journey? What were the choices that led you to go, I am not going to let this crush me, and I am going to make something incredibly positive from the loss that's an honour to Connor?
I think that I and my family, my husband and Nick and Hannah, like I said, Connor touched a lot of people when he was unwell. And after, it was this very moving funeral and this amazing outpouring support from the school community and his sister's school community. And after Connor passed away, somebody said to me, well, we had said, backing up, when Connor, after his surgery, he could have survived with these deficits. And that was interesting too, because I always now, when I used to look at handicapped people and people taking care of them, I'd always feel a bit of, I felt sorry, but now I look at them and I feel I'm proud of them, and I feel that's, that terrible phrase, that new normal, but that's normal and that's beautiful and it's wonderful. So I had this whole epiphany about being handicapped as well, like bring it on. But when Connor was unwell, I said, we should start a foundation. Well, he had to do something, and he wasn't going to go to university because he couldn't even remember what day it was, although he thought he was going. And I said, Connor, we should start a foundation because you're really inspiring. And he was lying on the couch, tired as usual. And he said, I don't feel very inspiring. And I love that. So that was sort of, and he goes, yeah, okay. And, so I thought, well, this is something he and I could do together. So after he had passed away, someone said, well, you still have to go on with that foundation. I'm like, oh, all right. It's sort of, everything that has happened has just unfolded. I'm a productive person by nature anyway. I like to be busy and I like to do. And I did use the phrase productive grieving. I think for me, that's probably what I have done. I know that, again, isn't for everybody, but for me, I just feel better almost having lists and things to think about. And so somebody had suggested to have an event. We had this amazing friend. He was our kids' babysitter. He's a marketing sensation. So if anybody looks at any of our marketing, it's by this young man named Merrick. And he came over and workshopped with my husband and I our logo, which is the logo we have now. Mm-hmm. And he let us, we were both lying on the sofa that day. I think my husband and I both, a week after Connor had passed away, very tired, it was all very acute and very emotional. But he led us through that exercise of leading into how would we do this. And then people who have these amazing skill sets kept appearing, friends, somebody who would help me with the legal part of something, somebody who would help me with, anything I didn't know. I also wasn't afraid to ask, and it just sort of kept going. And then somebody said, well, you need an event. And I said, oh God, I can't bear. I have done a lot of fundraising. I've done balls. I had helped with all those sorts of things. I thought, oh, that just...
it's a lot of work.
No, it's a lot of work. And his brother, Nick, said, why don't we do Connor's Run? And because I was thinking maybe we just slow walk around. Connor was never in a hurry. And And I thought, oh, Connor's run. Just a few months before he was diagnosed, in September of 2011, he ran from our house in Sandringham to the Mercantile Boat Sheds in training for running. Well, that has now spawned into Connor's run.
Yeah, and that's 18, 19 kilometres?
18, 19 kilometers.
Yeah, how many miles is that?
That is 12 or 13 miles.
It's a good run.
It's a good run, and it's genuine. And that is something I've always tried. And I do say Connor did leave us with a lot of material. He loved Latin. So early on, we knew we wanted to incorporate Latin. And that was when he was unwell. And the boys in his school wanted to do a fundraiser. So they came up with these. Well, we came up with a shirt. And then we thought, well, we need something that, you know, everybody can wear all the time. And this phrase, Aeternum Fortis, means eternal strength. And Connor was with us when we came up with that phrase, which actually is really nice as well. So that sort of has been our mantra and ties into his love of Latin and really sort of the way he approached life
thoughtful.
And the way we're all trying to carry on in his spirit.
You've raised about $333,000.
No, over $1 million.
Oh, over $1 million.
We've raised over $1 million in 2 years.
Okay.
Well, the run's been 100,000, then 270,000, then 400,000.
Right. Well, I don't know where I saw 334,000.
Maybe we've given.
Oh, you've given.
We probably
that
have.
much. Okay, that's
what
where I got it wrong.
We want to give lots more, but that's what we've given with earmarks to do a lot more of giving as well.
And in terms of just the impact that money will make, why is it so important?
Well, after we had the first event, and again, I didn't know much about the brain cancer world and didn't really want to know about it, but here I am thrust in it, so it's better figure it out. You can do adults, pediatrics. So again, thinking about how are we going to focus? What are we going to do? Well, Connor's really was pediatric. It would have started as pediatric. He was in that borderline with his age. But in looking at it, there were some very well-established adult brain cancer charities in Australia and around the world, but not as much for pediatrics, and that started to come out where these kids, there is a real inequity in funding between adults and kids, and people don't understand that. And you actually can't, it still sort of mystifies me, why wouldn't children? But I actually get it. People, not just us and our charity, but a lot of these causes, and that's why I'm so supportive of people who do get behind something that they believe in, because that passion, if it's positive and if it's a need that is out there, it's wonderful that these things do happen. And so for us, we are not in an overcrowded space. It is not like we came into pediatric brain cancer and thought, where can we fit into our niche? Well, in Australia, there are some wonderful other pediatric brain cancer charities. We've made sure to get to know them all. We want to collaborate with them and partner with them because most of us have lost a child or a loved one, so that's been a really wonderful something, sort of that silver lining that's unfolded after all of this. But Connor had an ependymoma. That was his specific kind of brain tumor. How would you even spell that? I couldn't even say it when he was first diagnosed with it. But now, through asking a lot of questions, we know who the top principal investigators are in the top labs in the world. We've made sure we've got to know them. We're trying to build relationships with them, and they're very happy to have us. Yeah. And that was another thing. They're so receptive that here is a charity who seems very, very determined, as we are, to do some good things in a space where, that particular disease has some charities, but certainly not too many.
Yeah. Compared to, say, breast cancer, for instance.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'll never, any of those, I think, I could still get breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And I'm not negative about any of those. I think good on them for doing a great job. And we're going to do a great job in this space. Yeah. And there's lots of work. And any of these illnesses, they're really complex and they really do take a lot of research. So we're hoping to help collaboration come back into Australia. We want to help fund not just in Melbourne where we live, but throughout this country, and try to bring people together, and we'll invest in PhD students and more research, and that ties into Connor as well. He could have been one of those brilliant brains doing some of this work, and I think of that too. I think that was the path he was going on, his life was cut short, but now we're going to try to inspire that next generation of people.
Well, Liz, I'm struggling to find the words to wrap around how much I admire you for just how incredibly brave you've been, but how you've just so consciously chosen to respond in a positive way and in a productive way,
yes,
in a very purposeful way. And I think there's something everyone, including people who hopefully would never walk along your journey, would get from just listening to you talk about all of this.